40% of all athletes are women. They receive 43% of all college scholarships. Interest is skyrocketing, yet they receive just 4% of media coverage. Hello, my name is Samantha Hendricks, and today I will be discussing the role stakeholders have in the issue surrounding the relationship between women's sports and the media. Since I was a little girl, I've been playing sports and was encouraged by my parents that I could excel in any sport I practiced and put my mind to. My involvement as a female in the sports world has allowed me to experience the hard work and dedication that contributes to the success in athletics. Because of this, I can't imagine not receiving equal coverage after the hours upon hours of hard work and practice women put into their sports. Sadly, this is an issue that is all too familiar to the majority of female athletes today. The journey of women's rights in sports history has not been an easy one, but impressive advancements have been made over time. However, there is still a huge and obvious lack of equality when it comes to the media and how they handle female athletics. The media is powerful. It influences us and shapes our attitudes and values in ways we might not even notice. The way it portrays female athletes, as well as the shortage of time spent on female athletics, is downright unfair and unacceptable. Regarding the relationship between women's sports and the media, we turn to the stakeholders. A stakeholder is a person, group, or organization that has interest, concern, or is related to an issue. Stakeholders play an enormous role in the issue of women's sports in the media. They are essentially the backbone of the problem because with them it can be improved and without them the issue would be irrelevant. Female athletes, major media outlets, the fans, the female athletes' coaches, and the youth are the 5 major stakeholders involved with the issue of female athletics in the media. My goal with these next few minutes is to make you, the audience, aware of 3 things. 1, the stakeholders involved in the issue, how they're involved and affected and to what degree, the amount of influence each one of the stakeholders has on the issue, and 3, the relationships between the stakeholders and how they can work together to help solve the issue. Female athletes are the most involved stakeholder due to the fact they know firsthand what it's like to be overshadowed by male sports in the media. The media doesn't ignore women's sports completely. It just takes much more time and effort for them to get noticed. The reality of the relationship between female athletes and the media is that in order for them to receive attention, females have to go to the extremes. Professional hockey player Nora Rady states in an interview, "It wasn't until my team was 31-0 that we caught the media's attention and they started following us." In comparison to men's sports, where almost every event is broadcasted, women's sports are in a position where they have to prove the media that they are worthy enough to earn coverage. Coaches go hand in hand with female athletes when it comes to their involvement in the issue of women's sports in the media. Although they aren't the ones performing, they spend outrageous amounts of time and effort to ensure success for their team. In Leanne Norman's article, she interviews a coach who expresses what it's like to feel second best when she says, "At times you get frustrated because you think, I've done a really good job. And yet it doesn't matter how good of a job you do sometimes, you just don't get the opportunity." This coach is saying that because of the lack of media coverage women's sports receives, sometimes a job well done doesn't mean much when there is barely any recognition. When it comes to the influence on the American population, the media by far has the most power due to its several and ever-changing advances in technology. The media's main concern in their coverage is money, and it drives their decisions. The media believes that if they were to cover more women's sports, they would lose money because there is not a large enough fan base. However, this is not true. Dr. Mary Jo Kane states in a documentary, "I cannot tell you the number of times over the years sports editors and sports reporters have said to me, 'Well, the reason we don't cover women's sports is because nobody's interested.' I figured out that the referent for 'nobody's interested' are those exact same sports editors and sports reporters because there's an enormously untapped market of people who are desperately interested." This statement shows that there is an interest in women's sports, but certain elements, perhaps sexism, are keeping the reporters from covering women's sports. Fans play a big role in the movement towards change in women's sports in the media. The fan base for women's sports is definitely out there and is large and supportive. Economics professor David Barry, in an article for Time, states, "The Women's World Cup in July of 2015 was a ratings success for Fox. The final match was the highest-rated television broadcast of a soccer game in the U.S., and that includes any game previously played by men or women." Barry uses the World Cup as an example to show that the fan base for women's sports is definitely present, due to the outstanding outcome of the event. In his article, Professor Brady brings up another interesting yet very valid point. when he says, "The major professional sports leagues for women are still in their infancy. The WNBA has been around for only about 20 years. Professional women's soccer has an even shorter history. To expect a league that is this young to have a fan base we see in more mature sports leagues is unrealistic." Various states suggest in this part of his article that women's sports have an even brighter future ahead of them, due to their level of infancy compared to men's sports. However, in order for these sports to grow like they should, adequate media coverage is definitely needed. The issue of women's sports in the media is greatly affecting today's younger generation in a negative way. Because they do not see females anywhere in the media, little girls think that it's not normal for females to play sports, and little boys think that sports are for boys only. Author Donna Lopiano addresses this point in her article when she says, "Boys grow up watching television, bombarded by heroic and confident images of themselves playing sports and being revered for their accomplishments. Girls do not receive these messages." This saddening yet powerful statement by Lopiano is proof of the misguided thoughts the youth occupy on behalf of the shortage of women's sports coverage in the media. Each stakeholder has a different level of influence on the issue of women's sports in the media. Female athletes as a stakeholder have a moderate level of influence towards the issue at hand. The one aspect they do have a large impact on is their fans. The way the athletes act on and off the court has a lot to do with the amount of attention and praise they receive from their fans. If the female athletes can attract and keep more fans, they will gain more media attention. The coaches of female athletes have a slightly smaller amount of influence than the athletes due to their amount of connection with the fans. It isn't as strong as that of the athletes, but they are still admired for coaching and acting as a spokesperson for the entire team. Regarding the issue of women's sports in the media is the stakeholder that can make the most significant difference. In the end, they make the decision as to what amount of coverage of women's athletics gets shown. If the media started to show more women's sports equally and portray the athletes more as athletes, the issue would be solved. The fans have the second largest amount of influence below the media. Fans' money is what the media ultimately gravitates towards, so keeping this in mind, if the fan base of women's sports creates more of a voice towards the media and continues to grow, the media will then be more likely to tap into the highly untouched market of women's sports fans and increase overall coverage. Since the children are the future and such a large concern in society, they have quite a bit of influence. The negative thoughts and effects having no female athletes on television is causing them to have is very concerning. Although they do not have much of an actual voice with serious issues, their parents are still concerned and act as their voice. The relationships between the different stakeholders are a deciding factor to the success of the issue of women's sports in the media. Author Ruth Holdaway puts it perfectly in her article when she says, "Key stakeholders such as media companies, commercial partners, and competition organizers need to work together to develop a regular calendar of highly quality events and competitions." Ruth is saying that different media platforms need to work together in an organizational manner to create a schedule for the given sports media coverage time in order for a more effective and successful delivery to the fans. Ruth goes on in her article to say, women's events and competitions must be developed in a way that encourages fans to engage and connect with them. Here, she is connecting the fans and the media and saying that the media needs to develop a schedule for the given women's sport that encourages participation in the fans. But the fans also have a role of their own to fulfill, and that is to make sure they support and attend their favorite women's sporting events and encourage their friends to do as well. However, in order for the fans to stay interested, female athletes and their coaches need to keep performing at their best and pleasing their fan base. With all that being said, I hope you as an audience are now aware and have a better understanding of why women's sports in the media is a problem, the stakeholders' role in the issue, and where you stand as a citizen. Stakeholders play an enormous role in the issue of women's sports in the media and are the backbone of the problem, because with them it can be improved and without them the issue would be irrelevant. I hope this talk has opened your eyes as an individual to figure out where you stand with this topic besides being an audience member. Women's sports in the media obviously still has a long way to go in terms of the relationship, but to make more advances towards the issue, there are 4 main things you can do to help. These include 1. Attending women's sporting events, 2. Supporting companies and endorsements that are advocates for women's athletics and give them appropriate portrayals, 3. Encourage different media outlets such as television stations or newspapers to cover women's sports, and 4. To encourage young girls to participate in sports. I want to close and leave you with this main idea. If you are a major stakeholder of any issue, whether it be a strong supporter for animal rights or a fan of a sports team, please find out what you can do to improve and get involved in that issue and take the steps to help solving it. Thank you.